are back on the road to 3 brand new CEX stores, and spoiler alert, one of these 3 stores has the best selection of Mega Drive games I've ever seen in any CEX store in all my years of game hunting. Welcome to my continuing mission to visit every CEX store in the entire world. From the weird to the wonderful, the big to the small, I am here to visit them all. This is the crazy world of CEX. Hello again, folks, and welcome back to the crazy world of CEX, my continuing adventure to try and visit every single CEX store in the entire world. And today we are back with 3 brand new stores, and this is what I love about visiting new CEX stores I've never been to before. You never know what to expect. Sure, you can go online and check what games are in stock, but sometimes you'll be absolutely blown away by what surprises are hidden in store. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. And if you want to go above and beyond and help me continue my game hunting adventures, please consider becoming a supporter over on Patreon. It's just £1 a month, you get loads of bonus content, including even more sweet CEX pickups. We're starting off this episode of the crazy world of CEX in picturesque Boston, and a short walk through this very nice looking town, we find ourselves at our first stop, Boston Bar Gates. So let's hope we can find some really cool things in here. Straight from the off, it's a slight oddity as it's one of the black fronted CEX stores. You don't see these very often. I have no idea why some stores are red and some are black, but let's get hunting for some games. Starting off, and we have some consoles in the window. We have the Spider-Man PlayStation 4, then a lot of iPhones, iPads, bits like that. I can understand why there's not normally more retro games in the window, but it was cool to see this copy of Alien Resurrection, which is incredibly expensive because, if you didn't know, you can use it to debug and play copied games on your PlayStation 1. It's amazing how many years it took for that to be discovered. Heading in store here at Boston, and it was actually surprising how large this store was, but a little bit saddening to see how small the selection of retro games was in here. So you can see we have a little bit of Master System, a little bit of N64, just not a great deal of anything, but it was definitely a case of quality over quantity. If you want to see what retro they have in stock, you can scan the QR code in store, which was pretty cool. There were some nice bits here, but nothing I really needed for my collection. And it does seem that these retro sections in CEX nationwide are getting smaller and smaller, but there were some really cool bits here. But let's head on next to the Xbox 360 section. Unfortunately, nothing much jumped out at me from this Xbox 360 section, except for this, Grease, the video game, which I don't think I've ever seen. But do you know what? I'm going to go ahead and judge this one by the cover. It's a Kinect game, it's probably a dance game, and honestly, it's probably pretty rubbish. Next up, we're heading to the largest section here in Boston CX, the PlayStation 4 section, and just due to the size, I knew there had to be some absolute bangers here. Bangers such as Dragon's Dogma Dark Risen, which I was tempted to pick up, but honestly, you can pick up for the Xbox 360 so much cheaper. I already have that game in my collection, so I did pass. But here's a game I do need to pick up at some point, Hotline Miami Collection. These games are absolute bangers, and definitely games which you need to check out. But when it comes to collecting for the PlayStation 4, one of my favourite subsets are the PlayStation VR titles. And I've never seen this game before, Groundhog Day like father, like son. And here is the beauty of collecting for PlayStation VR at the moment. Most of these games are very cheap. Like, for example, this is one of the more expensive games, Iron Man, which is £8. There are so many titles for PlayStation VR at the moment which you can pick up, not just for under £10, but for £5 and under. There truly has never been a better time to collect for PlayStation VR. And I am going to take full advantage of these games being cheap at the moment, picking up as many of these games as possible, because I absolutely love the PlayStation VR. Yes, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm such a fan of VR gaming, and this is such a great way to do it on the cheap. Yes, there are better ways to play VR games, but for ease and for price and just for the quantity of games, I don't think you can go far wrong with PlayStation VR. There's so many amazing games out there, and like I said, they're so cheap at the moment. Now, I did look for steelbooks here in Boston, and this was sadly the only one I found, The Last of Us Part 2, which I already had in my collection, but fear not, there is a brand new episode of steelbook hunting in CX coming very very soon. So keep your eyes peeled and make sure you're subscribed. Now, whenever I'm in CX, I love to look for oddities and variants, such as this right here. Ghostbusters, a video game, but this is a special edition which comes with the Blu-ray movie. Now, I presume it comes with a Blu-ray movie, but stick around for the pickups at the end of this video, as I have a question for anyone who owns this specific version of Ghostbusters, the video game. Quickly pause here for some bonus retro in Boston, as we are hitting the road onto the next store here on the crazy world of CEX. And this is the way I like to do this normally. I'll hit up 3 stores which I can drive between on the same days. It makes my life a lot easier, and it means we can visit even more CEX stores for this series. And next up, we are heading to the seaside, to a town which I have never been to before. I don't think this is a town that gets a bad rap. I actually really enjoyed my time here in Skegness. And today, for the first time ever, we are visiting Skegness CEX, and I was not prepared for what is in store here. This blew my mind. Straight in and straight to the glass cabinet of dreams. That's because I have a game which I'm hunting for, specifically here in Skegness today. I checked the CEX app and this game should be in stock. It is for the Mega Drive, and it is a game which I've been looking for the longest time. It is a shmup game that looks absolutely incredible, and that game is this game right here, Empire of Steel. Yes, it is not complete with the manual, but it's a game I do not see very often, and just the tip of the Mega Drive iceberg here. This is really cool and something I've never seen before in CEX. A TV set up playing the video games that are for sale. The game in question is timed Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Absolutely amazing game. If you own a PlayStation 5, you owe it to yourself to pick that game up. It is amazing. Just casually chilling here at the bottom of the glass cabinet of dreams, 2 SNES heavy hitters, including TMNT Turtles in Time, which is without a doubt one of my most wanted games, but sadly today I didn't quite have the budget to pick this one up. CEX here in Skegness also had a really good Xbox 360 section, including this game here, which I've never seen before, Assassin's Creed Birth of a New World, the American Saga. Now let me know what's on that game, as I've never seen it before. I presume it's just Assassin's Creed 3 with its DLC, but I could be wrong. Here's another game which was sorely missing from my collection for a very long while, Enemy Front. So I did pass this time because I think it did have the European age rating on the front, so I did pass on that one. Carrying on, and a game which I have passed on so many times. I don't know what it is, but every time I pick up this game, I end up not picking it up as such. I always look at it, I always think, oh, I'll just grab it next time, and I always pass on it. But with the rising price of Xbox 360 games, maybe now is the time to grab this one. Last find here in the Xbox 360 section is a game not a lot of people seem to talk about. Remember Me is another kind of forgotten Capcom game from this generation, and a game which I do once again really need to pick up. So, full disclosure, I was planning to pick up quite a few Xbox 360 games here in Skegness. But here's the thing, for each CEX store I visit, I have kind of a budget in mind, because I'm visiting multiple stores. I want to be able to spend a reasonable amount of money in each store, and I don't want to just blow it all on one store. And I was thinking, right, I'm going to pick up a couple of these Xbox 360 games. There's some really good titles here. Unlike Twistomania, I think I was just amazed because I'd never seen this game before, much like earlier on when I saw that Grease video game. And I always have a good look through the PlayStation 3 section, just in case there's anything that jumps out here. The only thing that really jumped out to me was War in the North, once again, which is surprisingly the exact same price as it is for the Xbox 360. But like I said, going back to the Xbox 360, I had picked up a few games which I was planning to take to the counter and purchase. But then, on my way to the counter, I saw something hiding behind the glass cabinet of dreams which absolutely blew my mind. Hiding behind the counter at Skegness CEX was one of the best Sega retro selections I've ever seen. Some absolutely amazing Mega Drive and Master System games, and these all look to be in absolutely incredible condition. But here's the thing, when it comes to retro, it is all about condition. And apologies in advance to the CEX staff member who served me on this day, as we went through quite a lot of these games to check the condition. Yes, I understand why these games are hidden in the back of the store where people can't get their hands on them quite so easily. But apologies, like I said, to the staff member who served me, as we checked out a lot of these games. And firstly, I am so thankful to finally find a copy of Primal Rage. I've been hunting for this game for ages, but it wasn't all wins here. I was very tempted by this game, but it was just a little bit rougher. It wasn't as obvious, but the outer cart was pretty damaged. And then this one, I was like, again, tempted, but most of the time when I am looking for retro, I'm looking for it to be boxed, complete, and most importantly in very good condition. But I will pass on the manual sometimes just so I get to play these games. This was a weird one. Hellfire was being sold at the unboxed price, which was crazy considering it also had the manual, but I don't think the video really does it justice. The artwork on this game was super rough, and thus why they were selling it at the unboxed price. So that was Skegness CEX. Some very difficult decisions had to be made here. I had to pass on some really good Xbox 360 titles. I had to leave behind some absolutely banging Sega Retro, but I was super happy with what I'd picked up, which I'll show you later on in this video in the pickups. Now we have one more stop, this time on the crazy world of CEX, a short drive through the wilderness which seemingly took forever, and we arrived at our final location, this time Lincoln CEX. And so far today's hunt has been absolutely banging, so let's hope we can end today's hunt on a high. Starting off in the front window, and at first I didn't really think there was much to see here, but then hiding down the bottom was the final Super Star Wars game which I needed for my SNES collection, Empire Strikes Back. But unfortunately today I did have to pass just because I didn't have enough CEX credit to pick this one up. But fear not, I'm sure we can find some cheap bangers inside here at Lincoln CEX. Now I presume in the past the basement used to be full of DVDs, and it does look like it has closed, so let me know if you've been to Lincoln CEX in the past. Heading over to the glass cabinet of dreams, and here's something which you don't see very often anymore: boxed minty N64 goodness. Now I did pass on both of these games because I already have them in my collection, but it's getting harder and harder to find CIB boxed N64 at CEX. The same can be said for some of these rarer GameCube games, especially complete with the manuals, but this is something I love to see. PlayStation 1 Platinum games, because if you've been a fan of the channel for any kind of time, you'll know I love my Platinum games. A small selection of Sega Retro here, but honestly it just paled in comparison to the earlier Sega goodness we found in Skegness. Heading to the PlayStation 4 section, and once again we are finding some cheap PlayStation VR bangers. I've said it before, this is the best time to collect for the PlayStation VR, just because I honestly don't think these prices are ever going to get any cheaper. Games such as Ultra Wings, picking this up for £6 is an absolute bargain. And if you have never played this game before, it is absolutely incredible. Just imagine a VR Pilot Wings and you are halfway there. It's definitely one to check out in VR. A quick peruse to the PlayStation 3 section, I found a game which I guarantee is going to spike in value once again. Deadpool, of course, with the new movie out now in cinemas, this game is probably going to get even more expensive, and the Xbox 360 version of this game is already getting super expensive. Even the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One version. Essentially that game is expensive, and I honestly believe it's only going to get more expensive. It's because it's one of those games with the license where the license has run out, you can no longer buy the game digitally, it's just going to continue to go up in value. But I'm very happy to already have an Xbox 360 copy in my collection. But this is a subset which I need to finish sooner rather than later. Ratchet & Clank on the PS3 once again is only going to get more expensive. And speaking of expensive, we are finishing our hunt this time in the Xbox 360 section, a section which is only going to go up in price, especially with the closure of the Xbox Online store being merely days away from the release of this video. And I'm still hunting for Xbox 360 bangers, because honestly it is one of the greatest consoles of all time to collect for, just because of the massive variety of games that were released for this console. It was such an absolutely incredible age of gaming, and it still amazes me to this day that I find things I've never seen before, like this Hitman Absolution Special Edition right here for £1.50. There was no way I could leave this one behind. And speaking of leaving things behind, I'm grabbing it now. I'm sick of leaving this behind. Lord of the Rings War in the North is coming home with me. I have passed on that game so many times before, and I just don't want to look back in a year or two and realise I'm paying like 30 quid for a game which I could have picked up for a third of the price. And this is a large thing to consider when it comes to the Xbox 360. FOMO. So many people are just grabbing these games now because they're only going to go up in value. But this is also spiking the price of games. So sometimes just think before you buy. Finally, here in Lincoln, we have one of the smallest sections. This section right here is the GameCube, OG Xbox and PSP section. And I wonder in years to come if this is what will become of the Xbox 360 section. These sections used to be absolutely massive, and now, honestly, just look at the size of them. What an absolutely incredible day it had been hunting in 3 brand new CEX stores here on the crazy world of CEX. We had seen a little bit of everything. We had seen some holy grails, some box retro. We'd seen one of the largest sections of Sega retro I'd ever seen in any CEX store. I'd picked up console games from all generations, but we have just one last stop here on the crazy world of CEX this time, and that is of course at my local CEX store here in the fine city of Norwich, because as is tradition, this is where we always end our hunt, and this time I was on the hunt for a specific game, and I knew where this game was going to be. This game was going to be in the glass cabinet of dreams. This is a Mega Drive game which I've been on the hunt for a very long while, and as soon as I got the stock alert that this was in my local CX, I knew I had to pick it up. But like I said earlier, when it comes to retro game collecting, it is all about condition. I will still pick up a game if it is missing the manual as long as it is in good condition, but this game was rough. But when I saw this right here, Double Dragon 3, look at the condition of this game. Yes, it has no box. Yes, it has no manual. But for £10, this is an incredible way to own and play a piece of NES history. We've got some amazing items for the collection. Let's take it back to the games room and go through these amazing pickups. Here we are back in the games room from 3 brand new CEX stores. We have an absolute stack of amazing pickups to get through. So let's jump into our first games from Boston Bargate in Boston. We have a triplet of PlayStation VR games. And here's the thing, most of these games I have never heard of. There are still games which I'm discovering for the PlayStation VR. It had an absolutely incredible catalogue, and it's never been a better time to collect for it because it is super cheap at the minute. You can pick up games for like £5 and below, like Groundhog Day, like Father, like Son. I have no idea what this game is about. I'm guessing it's loosely based on the movie, but why have they waited this long to make another video game of this movie? I have no idea, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Next up we have a game, once again, I've never heard of, but I'm just picking up these PlayStation VR games while I can, while they're cheap, and that's Smash Hit Plunder. This one looks a bit like D&D. It's like a physics-based mage game. Looks really, really interesting. And this is the thing, there are so many interesting games on PlayStation VR. It's just worth checking them out and taking a risk, especially when the games are just a £5. And last up, we have a atmospheric horror game. And for me, this is one of the best kind of games to play on PlayStation VR, just because you're just so much more immersed in the game when it's VR. So very excited, if not a little bit scared, to jump into this one. Finally, from Boston Bargate, we have somewhat of an oddity, and it's always things like this I'm keeping an eye out for when I'm shopping in CEX. So this is Ghostbusters, the game for the PlayStation 3, but it also includes the Blu-ray movie. Now, I need you to let me know in the comments down below if you own this specific version of the game, because when I open it up, it seemingly only has a copy of the game, but is the movie on the same Blu-ray? Let me know if you know in the comments down below. It's not the end of days, but it'd be nice to know if I need to pick up a separate copy of the Blu-ray to make this one fully complete. Next up, we were off to Skegness, where I somehow stumbled across one of the best selections of not just Mega Drive, but also Master System games which I've ever seen in any CEX store in my years of game hunting. Now, the first game I picked up, I knew was in stock, and I knew I had to pick this game up, as this is a game I've been wanting to play for absolutely years. Empire of Steel, an absolutely amazing steampunk shmup game which looked absolutely incredible. But here is the thing, I picked this game up boxed but without the manual, and I paid £18 for this game. Now, as a collector, yes, I'm mainly trying to find my games complete with the manual and boxed, of course. But here's the thing, a complete copy of this game with the manual is £30. I find it very hard to justify paying an extra £12 for the manual. So in this occasion, I did pick this one up even though it didn't have the manual and save £12. And basically the most important thing is I actually get to play this game. But let me know in the comments down below. Let's just continue the debate, but please keep it civil. Complete games versus games without manual. Which way do you go? What's your opinions? But again, please, let's just keep the conversation civil. Next up, we have a game which I've waited to find complete with the manual for absolutely years. Which may sound a bit hypocritical, but here's the thing. This isn't a very expensive game. It's not a very rare game, but it's just a game for myself which holds some very key memories. This was one of the very first games I ever played on the Mega Drive, and at the end of the day, I paid £10 for this game to be complete. CEX sell it for just £8 without the manual. So I'm happy to pay £2 to have a complete copy of Primal Rage for the Mega Drive. I haven't played this game since it was released back in the day. I've heard this game hasn't aged very well, but for me it just holds such nostalgia. And to be able to pick this up complete with the manual for just £10, I just couldn't say no. Finally, from Skegness, we have a Master System game which was sorely missing from my collection. I managed to pick up this copy of Alien Storm complete with a very, very nice manual for just £10. And there's two things I love about Master System games. Firstly, the artwork is absolutely fantastic. And secondly, the descriptions on the back of these games are elite. I love these descriptions. They just sell the game so much more than even the artwork or the graphics ever can. So, Alien Storm. Shape-changing alien scum take over your city. Fry the slimy horrors and smash their bid for global conquest. Blast into action with fire blazers, electric whips, and more. And for £10, based on that description, would you have picked this game up? Our final stop this time was Lincoln. I wanted to pick up a couple of Xbox 360 games to fill some of the gaps in my collection. And first off, I have passed on this game multiple times. And this game has already gone up £2 in value since I picked it up. That game is Lord of the Rings War in the North. Now this game looks absolutely incredible. I think it's like a maybe cooperative kind of hack and slash game with some soft kind of RPG elements, but it looks absolutely fantastic, and it is a 15 rated Lord of the Rings game, which I guess means you can get some decaps and some cutting of limbs off. It looks absolutely fantastic, and I think this is a game which is only going to get more and more expensive in years to come, so definitely want to pick up sooner rather than later. Finally, from Lincoln, we have somewhat of an Xbox 360 oddity with this game, Hitman Absolution. And here is the thing, much like hunting for steelbooks in CEX, often with kind of variant covers like this one, you'll be paying the same price as the standard version of the game. So this set me back just £1.50 for this really cool looking special edition of this game. It comes with a copy of the game, which kind of hopefully you would think goes without saying, but it also comes with a pretty weighty art book. And honestly, for the price, there was no way I could leave this one behind on the shelf. Like I said earlier, when I'm hunting in CX, I'm looking for the oddities, and this one was a super, super cool find. Finally, as is tradition here on the crazy world of CX, we hit up my local CX store here in the fine city of Norwich. And I had a game which I specifically wanted to pick up. Fatal Labyrinth for the Sega Mega Drive looks absolutely incredible. It is a game I've never played, but as a D&D fan, it looked amazing. And they had a complete copy in store, and that was the game I was hoping to pick up. But here's the thing, for me, when retro game collecting, it is all about condition. Now, while that game was complete, the condition of the outer sleeve was pretty rough, so I did pass on that one. But somewhat controversially, I've picked up a loose cartridge, and that cartridge is this one, which is absolutely beautiful. Double Dragon Free for the SNES. Like, look at that artwork. Just look at it. Absolutely iconic. And I'm so excited to jump into this one because this was just £10. And for me, this is the real meaning of video game collecting. Not necessarily the fact you have to have everything complete. At the end of the day, as long as you can play the game. For me, when it comes to game collecting, that is all what matters. Playing your games. There we have it then, folks. That was another episode of the crazy world of CEX, and 3 brand new CEX stores crossed off the list of the frankly hundreds we still have to visit worldwide. But who knows, maybe next time I'll be visiting your local CX store here on the crazy world of CX. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you soon!